Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Would you want KOC to go full Campbell?
This is a reef with the wide left Substack. I'd go for it on fourth down all the time. I don't care.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, and today I am determined to make a reef late for his flight.
Yeah, Senior Bowl week. So over under how many times a reef tries to go through the Mobile McDonald's drive-thru at 1 a.m. and get shut down. Even though we can see you're in there, lady.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party.
Happy Monday, brand new week here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks so much for joining us on the Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube channel. Give us a subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you subscribe, you'll have instant, easy access to that 24/7 YouTube live stream where we'll pop up as well. Hear our audio. If you're taking us on the road, the Locked On Vikings audio feed where you can hear Luke Braun's Locked On Vikings. You met the Lukes, you met a Reef. I'm Sam Ekstrom once again. On today's show, of course, Championship Sunday reaction. Lions blow it. Chiefs back to the Super Bowl. Plenty of coaching second guesses, particularly with Dan Campbell. We'll get into all of that and query whether we would want KOC to be that aggressive coach in the future. Nerdy stats of the day, party fouls as well, and we'll give you the winner of our postseason betting round robin contest. Who's going to get our money for a free Super Bowl bet? We'll reveal the outcome later on in the show. But first, today's program is brought to you by FanDuel, and you're going to want to hear this because the Super Bowl is coming up, and FanDuel has a new promotion. If you make every moment more at FanDuel, new customer, join today, you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So you got to find some lopsided money lines, get $200 at FanDuel. All right, starting with Detroit. The Lions lose 34-31. They blow a 17-point second-half lead, 27 unanswered for San Francisco, and the Lions experience real pain. This is my stance on it. As a
the Lions,
the idea
historically privileged,
has not experienced pain before.
Honest to God, no. Listen to me. As a long-time Timberwolves follower and a longtime Vikings follower, I'm one test case. I think you could ask many other people and they would echo my sentiment. There has been far more Vikings pain than Timberwolves pain over the last 25 years. One of them is in the dredges of their league. It's not real pain. It's more like chronic aches. Real visceral pain comes from real big-time postseason devastation. And Detroit experienced it for the first time.
I would 100% agree with you. It is just a kind of, sometimes it's a difficult argument to make, and it's very funny. And the thing is, I think for the next couple of weeks, Lions fans will begin coping and saying, well, it's good that we got there. And it's not. It actually isn't.
There's already good season, though. It's not going to get better, though.
It's like
their lives changed. That's definitely going to hurt more than
So what the Lions have been doing for so long is they've been walking along the sidewalk and falling flat on their face, and that sucks. That hurts. But what the Vikings have been doing is climbing up to the top of a 10-meter dive and hitting the same sidewalk. Right? That hurts way more. That hurts so much more, and it's because you got up. It's because you were up there, right? It's because you took a chance. That's why it hurts, right? So, I agree with you, Sam, but it is kind of tough to be well, they've not experienced real pain. I think it's a deeper, more specific, different flavor of pain, but I'm not going to go ahead and say the Lions have not experienced pain. They have, right? 0-16 is painful, right? But this is heart-wrenching.
Open wounds.
It's different.
It's different.
It scoops out your chest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that California bagel that the guy wanted in NYC. It's scooped, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's gone.
Nice.
Yesterday
Carved out.
was
Good
the
reference.
second half. Yesterday was that viral video of the goalkeeper getting kicked in the face by the ball over and over again. You know what I'm talking about?
I know
Scott
of it. Yeah, I didn't see
Sterling.
it. Yeah.
Scott Sterling.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody's seen it, they'll get it. If not, sorry for being a narrowcaster.
But
Luke, how me? Yeah, Inman, were you like? Is part of you a sicko? Like, were you silently kind of reveling in another NFC North team going through that pain, or were you like,
Silently.
full on go?
Are you kidding me?
Inman, where were
After
you
they
at?
got to be like sorry, I know you asked me, but after they
Go ahead.
got to be like the darlings and get all the pats on the head in the world just for not being a total bleep show for once.
Right.
Come
It's
on,
the
get outta here.
expectations. It's the bar, right? When you're that bad for 30
Yeah, they had
years, the
no
bar is so
expectations.
low,
People
right?
were so patronizing to them.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Our job as rival fans is to point and laugh and not be like, oh, dear, gorgeous. You guys finally won double-digit games. Oh, my God, you won a playoff game for the first time since like the
here's the thing. So
Eisenhower
I
administration.
live in this kind of this double world where like a double think kind of thing, where it's like abstractly I'm very happy for Lions fans. They deserve to have, after all the suffering, to have success. But in the moment, watching the games, I'm like, buddy, welcome to the show. Hey,
yeah.
like it's tough to get away from that, and I don't apologize for it. Like I think, you know, watching another fan base suffer the way that you have suffered is its own joy, right? Like in specifically the way that you have also suffered, right? Like this is like, oh man, you thought it was funny when Favre threw the pick in 2009, and guess what? You're right. But it's also funny that Brandon Ayuk caught a pass off of some dude's face mask. That's hilarious.
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Right.
Right. Like,
It's funny too. Arif, you're going to be down in Mobile this week, and I know at some point you're going to touch base or hang out with like Jeff Risdon, friend of the show, covers the Lions for the last 20 years or so. Like you're going to have to get a welfare check on that guy because see how
I've
he's
been
holding
talking
up.
to him. He's rough.
Okay, yeah, it's got to
He's
be.
been putting
Can you
on, like,
imagine going to the
Metallica
Senior
and
Bowl
stuff like
after
that,
the
too.
Favre NFC Championship game and sitting there at the Senior Bowl and everybody knows you're the Viking guy and having to listen to that all week? Like that's just brutal, man.
Well, we watched the 2017 NFC Championship game in Mobile.
Yeah, I blacked that out. Yeah, I zoned that out. Yeah, we were with Charles, right? We were with Charles, and
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. We watched the first half or quarter at the bar, and we drove down, got that quick 7, and you and I were just going nuts. And Chuck was just sitting there looking at us like, wow, I get it. These Vikings fans, they're something else, man. Okay. And then we went back, and then he watched us obviously sit there and just slowly get quieter and quieter and quieter. And
Chuck,
yeah, that was,
by the way, coming off of
that was
watching
tough.
the
Yeah, a
Falcons-
year after 2016.
well, exactly. Right.
No
right.
sympathy
He was just
there.
like, yeah, the Dave Chappelle meme where it's just like, come on over, man. Come on over. I get it. It's okay. Come on over. It's okay.
Like I'm gonna make some more nachos, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 very close college friends. They stood up in my wedding. One of them a 49ers fan, California based. The other one from Milwaukee, but a Lions fan. And he was watching, and we have a text thread, the 3 of us. He was watching from an airplane during the game. And after the game, total radio silence. And I legitimately Google searched Lions fan jumps from plane after NFC Championship loss, just to make sure he was still with us and there wasn't a news story, because I would be catatonic. Now, I did hear from him today. He's alive. He blames Reynolds, like the offensive miscues, and in the second half, great on him more than Campbell. I would
fourth
be
down drop.
I'd be upset at the defense.
I 100% support this shifting of blame from Campbell to Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so let's talk
execute.
about that. Like, what's
execute.
the pie chart? What's the pie chart? I know we're stealing this bit from another show. What's the pie chart of blame that you would sort of divvy up here for the Lions?
Locked On owns the IP of this bit anyway, so it's not really theft.
Yeah, who patented it? That's legally true. You don't look it up.
I don't know, man. Like it's tough, right?
It's kind of
Because, like,
tough. Yeah.
some of the pie chart is like the 49ers played really well. You got to give it to them a little bit, right?
A lot of it is on God.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Divine
it is just,
intervention.
Like that Ayuk play is like what? I mean, come on.
Come on.
Like,
Come on.
Yeah, that's
I guess
crazy,
that's
right?
Kindle Vildor's fault, but like there was more going on.
Well, hey,
Well, okay,
what was it?
like,
Vikes Chargers?
blame
Was it
Kendall
was it a
Vildor
Caleb Evans
exactly
who
as
had it
much
bounce
as I
off his helmet?
blame a Caleb Evans.
That's true.
Yeah.
The exact same thing happened to the Vikings
Exactly.
earlier this
Well,
year.
except
Yeah.
except Ayuk didn't score a touchdown, which would have been nice for me because I had him at -110 in our little side pool. And he got out at you got down at the 1, and then they threw it to him and he dropped it. Anyway,
So fun. So fun.
but yeah, so obviously, whatever deity or deities that you consider responsible for the outcome of football games, which let's be clear, all of them are primarily responsible for the outcome here. I think that you just have to, like, the 49ers played well, right? The 49ers did a very good job. So the 49ers, I think, deserve more of it than Dan Campbell does, even if he were the top of the blame ladder, as it were, for the Lions. And I don't think that he is, right? I think that, Josh Reynolds is up there. I think a little bit Jared Goff is up there, but I don't want to put too much on him because he played mostly pretty well. Jameson Williams is up there.
Yep.
Like, his drops were not fantastic, right?
Yep.
So I think those are all, part and parcel, but I'd say Reynolds more than Campbell because the call was correct. The play call was correct. The receiver was open. The pass was accurate.
Just got to execute. Hit your hands.
What more can you ask, man?
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 60 Reynolds, 30, maybe not even 25, 30 for Campbell. And then the rest you divvy up to like the Jameson Williams, maybe a little Goff, things like that. But yeah, Reynolds is probably the scapegoat in that one for sure. More so than Campbell, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you get on. People have gotten on Campbell for not going for it at the end of the first half, and then going for it at the end of the second half. And the first half thing, maybe he's not thinking about this at all. I was thinking about it a couple of years ago. The Chiefs miss a 4th down at the goal line before halftime. Bengals come back and win.
Yeah,
and that served as a huge momentum shift. If you believe in momentum shifts, some of us don't on this show. And I could see, like, going up 3 possessions, that feels pretty good. You feel great going into halftime. That's a very easy and convenient second guess. I think I'm okay with that, with the call he made. And then again, tying it up with a 46-yard field goal. It's not a gimme kick. This is very consistent.
That's
with
a
who
75% kick. I want people to be clear about this. You don't make that all the time. In the modern NFL, that is a 75% kick.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't blame Dan Campbell if the kicker misses. You blame the kicker. And that's insane to me, right? That like the default for whatever reason is to kick that, right? And so we judge it against the default. And the default is you kick that and you make the kick. So if you miss the kick, that's the kicker's fault, not the coach's fault. If you miss the 4th down, that's the coach's fault. And it's not consistent, right? Like, the idea that you would take a risk and then the risk goes I shouldn't even say the opposite way, the minimal probability way, either a missed kick or a drop pass. And for whatever reason, we're blaming the coach in one scenario and the player in the other scenario, just because we have a default assumption of what makes sense here, when really we should be evaluating, if we play this play 100 times, given the exact same circumstances, right? It's the Lions against the 49ers, whatever, what helps you the most? And that's your job as a coach, is to do that one, right? The one that helps you the most. And honestly, I think that Campbell made a judgment call that the 4th down attempt helped him the most. The data does back him up, fine. But he's also talking about how, like, game situation and how his players are feeling and how much he trusts his offense. And let's be honest, they were running all over the 49ers in the first half. It makes sense for them to think that they've got an advantage there. So I don't know. That's a 75% kick. That's not a 100%. Man.
Yeah. That's
well,
like you got an 18 and the dealer's got a 4. Like, I'm hitting that 3 out of 4 times every time, right?
Yeah.
You're hitting an 18?
No, I'm cashing in. I'm winning that hand.
You're winning the bet.
Cashing in. Yep, I'm hitting that. Yep.
One of the things that
nobody's hitting an 18, Sam.
Suspect.
Nobody's hitting an 18.
One of the things that Matt Derry said on Locked On Lions about those plays was, it wasn't the go for it that wasn't his problem at all. It was coming out at empty shotgun in both those plays and not using any threat of the run or anything like that, which I think is an interesting way to look at it. I don't know if I hate it, because on those 2 4th down plays, the first one, they had it. Like, the Josh Reynolds was open for sure, but he just dropped it. And it's like, you didn't call the drop play. Like at a certain point, like the coach can make the decision and play the odds as best as he can, but Dan Campbell can't run out there and catch it for him. That's just very clearly just Josh Reynolds' fault. And I mean, I don't know, mesh on 4th and short. I'm basically never going to be mad at either.
Yeah,
that was the last one. Like that's always going to be a nice staple play call when you need like 3 yards. And I think like, I don't know, I want to challenge people. I want to challenge people's critical thinking. Like, are you capable of looking at a decision that was correct but didn't work and like parsing that out? Are you capable of looking at that and saying, okay, I get it, that's going to work more often than not, and it didn't this time. And instead of saying, shouldn't have done it, maybe we can be better at diagnosing the problem, right? The problem is Josh Reynolds dropped the freaking football. Like that's the correct diagnosis of the problem. Going back and saying, well, they shouldn't have gone for it on 4th down, then you wouldn't have had that Josh Reynolds drop. That's not critical thinking,
right?
And then you have to think.
Well, I think Luke's analogy is as difficult as it was to parse out because he said the word "hit" with blackjack. Makes sense, right? The dealer shows a 4, you have an 18, you take that, right? And then the dealer draws a 10, has to hit on that because of the rules, and draws a 6 after he has to hit, right? And you can't be like, okay, well, the dealer got 20. I shouldn't have hit.
Yeah, I shouldn't have.
Right? Like you can't know that, right? Obviously, you know what the outcome of if you hit was a 6, right? So you probably would have busted either way. But the analogy works to some extent, right? Like that you work with the information you have and you play the odds that you have, right? That 18 is going to win more often than not when the dealer shows a 4. And so you take that, you stand on the 18 because obviously you stand on 18, especially when the dealer shows a 4, right? That's it. That's what you have, right? And to evaluate it based off of, well, the dealer ended up winning, right? The dealer ended up with 20, so you lose. Like that's a crazy way to look at it, and that's no way to go through like hands of blackjack. Just like it's a crazy way to look at football and just say, well, on that play, like what are the which odds are higher, right? The drop or a missed field goal? A missed field goal, those odds are way higher at 46, 48 yards, right? Like a drop happens on like, especially to a receiver, like 6 to 8% of plays. Like it's crazy to think that it was an incorrect decision because a normally somewhat reliable, because he's not thrown to Jameson Williams on that play, right? A normally somewhat reliable receiver would drop that. The call was correct. The play call was correct. The pass was accurate. Got to execute.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, would we like KOC to be more Dan Campbell? That's next on the Minnesota Football Party. And FanDuel wants you to have some dough for the Super Bowl. America's #1 sportsbook has a brand new Super Bowl-centric promotion. So many ways to bet. Grab your favorite football snacks, fire up the FanDuel Sportsbook app, play some super bets. Super Bowl Sunday with the props, the camaraderie, the buffets, the commercials. It's so fun. Make FanDuel part of your Super Bowl. You've got who's going to score the first touchdown, who's going to score anytime touchdown, national anthem length, all of the great props available at FanDuel. New customers, join today. Get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So take care of that. Don't do what I did in New York a few weeks ago, if you remember that fiasco. Take care of your 5. Find a lopsided money line. Get the $200 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Get started. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Check out the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Make every moment more with FanDuel for the Super Bowl, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dan Campbell, last 2 years, first in 4th down attempts in the NFL. Kevin O'Connell, 16th, right in the middle. And I wrote an article on November 22nd. This was after Denver game, so it's not totally updated. At that point in time, Kevin O'Connell was 24th in go for it percentage. I believe it was inside the 50 on 4th downs, like in opponent territory. So he is middle to bottom of aggressive head coaches. Dan Campbell's at the top. You want KOC to go full Campbell, Luke Braun, or would you like a little more moderation than that?
I don't care.
So that's a yes. That's a yes.
Sure. Yeah. I think aggressive on fourth down is good. I think that's part of what made the Lions the Lions. I don't think that is the thing about Dan Campbell that got them to the NFC Championship game. I think there's like a culture and a locker room thing that's kind of very difficult to get your hands on and very, very difficult to measure, but it's undeniable about the Lions. And I guess, yeah, you can find like a win probability edge and you can like look at all of those arguments and it's like pretty clear what the right decision is. But also like, that's not the issue that Kevin O'Connell should be focusing on the most.
So I'm looking at an updated chart. So that's why I'm like looking up here from 2023, where the minimum expected go for it increase is at least negative 0.5%. Based on your decision, and how often teams go for it when they should, based off of a 0.5% win probability change. Very small, but the Lions are 5th in the NFL, right? So it's the Cardinals number 1, Eagles 2, which that one makes sense. I think we all kind of expect that. Titans 3, and then Lions 5, right? Panthers are 4th. The Vikings are middle of the pack, 15th, right? And I think that matches our intuition. The differences there are like Luke is getting at. The differences there are relatively small. Obviously, they often occur in very high leverage moments. If I change it to 0.5%, so then negative 0.5%, the Eagles jump up to 70, the Lions jump up to 60, and so they're third. The Vikings actually drop down a little bit, so maybe they go for less optimal scenarios. Relatively small. And if you spend more time or more of your energy figuring out 1 or 2 extra plays that you can execute a little bit better, that may have the same impact, right? It just in terms of the way that you invest your thinking and your time. That said, because you can delegate this task to someone and then they can tell it to you from the booth, you should have the ability to be more aggressive without it costing you too much in terms of resources. So I would like the Vikings to be more aggressive. They seem to be suboptimal compared to some of the more successful teams around the NFL in fourth down percentage. And I think that could probably swing, the percentages of a game or two, which could end up swinging a game, especially given how often the Vikings seem to be in these insanely close games. Having a couple of extra percentage points could probably get you another game. I would like it. It's not at the top of my list of things to care about. It's not the reason that, like Luke said, that Dan Campbell's a good coach. It just adds on. It's like a topping on a pizza. You have to have a good crust. You have to have good cheese. You have to have good sauce. But it's nice to have pepperoni sometimes.
Can you go over those rankings again? Where were they as far as success rate? Was that just going for it on?
Did you just go for it, right?
That was just
not
go for
not
it.
In terms of success rate.
Do we know the success rate? I know from a volume standpoint. Again, you just mentioned Lions top 5, and they were also, I'm assuming, right? They got to the NFC Championship game. It'd be pretty
give
good.
Me 30
at
seconds.
Too.
30 seconds.
I was just curious. I think it's a fluid situation, game to game, drive to drive. As a coach, how confident are you? You've got the edge or a mismatch from a player personnel or talent point of view. Because I think it's one thing to be a psycho and aggressive on every drive, every game, just because the analytics say go for it. It's a whole other thing when you've actually got the right player personnel and the talent that can actually give you a slight edge in those situations. And, even with like Jared Goff not being a tush push guy, right? When you've got one of the better offensive lines in the league, 2 of the better running backs that both give you kind of a different skill set, and then a premium tight end, a premium wide receiver, some good complementary pieces. You mix all that together, and along with Ben Johnson being one of the better play callers right now in the league, I think you stack all that up. That's a huge reason to their success rate. So I think when I look at the Vikings.
I just looked this up, and Sam might have just found it at the same time. So sorry to
I'm curious
to bogart you on this one. But the Vikings are 6th in fourth down success rate.
Wow.
Which to me suggests that they should go for it much more often.
Wow.
The Lions are 15th, which to me suggests they're going for it an optimal number of times, honestly.
What was your criteria, Arif? Because I do have different numbers there. My search on StatHead was last 2 seasons. Was that this year or 2 seasons?
It's just this year. I just looked at.
Got it.
What's yours?
Because I didn't want to spend the time going to StatHead and going through the drop down menu.
2 seasons of data, last 2, so the O'Connell era. Vikings are 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th in success rate. Detroit 13th.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And obviously the Eagles are like number one because
Right.
Jesus. But yeah, I think that if you are near the top in success rate on fourth downs, that suggests to me you're not going for it on fourth down often enough. You're only going for it on fourth down when you've got like every opportunity.
The perfect
it's
storm.
Only on fourth
Perfect
one,
situation.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And you're just not doing it often. So you need to fail more often for me to think that you're doing it often enough. Unless again you're the Eagles, right? In which case, who can, like you're just always converting 4th and 1, so the numbers don't really make sense for them. But yeah, I think that I would like it if the Vikings did that more often. People who are like really obsessed with measures like time of possession, which I just do not care about at all.
I hate how
should
much
also
fun that gets on TV.
Yeah, should also want teams to go for it on fourth down, but they also tend to be the opposite people, right? Like if possession matters that much, why are you giving the ball away?
Mhm.
Like I don't know. Like it's kind of weird, kind of where we hit these kind of narrative inconsistencies about the way that we approach football games and what wins football games. Like, you know, converting first downs is much more important for time of possession than whether or not you run or pass it on first down. In fact, passing on first down may increase your time of possession because you're marching down the field a little bit more often, right? And so we think of these like heavy time possession teams as like good defense, run the ball offense, and that might not be the case because time of possession is an anterior stat. It is a product of playing well, not the reason that you're playing well. So I think it's kind of silly, but just to the point of like, if you care that much about a statistic like that, I don't know why you wouldn't care about, you know, surrendering more effectively by punting.
And we still don't know the Campbell effect. Like the Staley effect was Staley got burned so many times. He backed off of it. Campbell's now been burned in big spots, you know, Cowboys game as well. And will he,
and he never backed off
of it? And he
I
has
don't
not
think he
backed
will.
off of it.
I think he's sufficiently insane.
And
yeah, it's perfect. After the game, they were like, "Do you regret that?" And he's like, "I don't regret that at all. It's tough." And
Yeah,
it's
he's like, it's part of the
it.
job.
I do have a party foul.
Perfect answer.
About
exactly. No, I agree. 100% the perfect answer.
Yeah. Brandon Staley, I think it felt more like he thought he was like, I'm playing the numbers. Where Dan Campbell is just vibing. Like his vibes just happen to align with the numbers. But he's
really well, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, extremely
he's
well
in
with
sync,
the numbers.
for sure. He's in sync with it. Yeah.
Like in spots where you think he'd be aggressive and the numbers tell you to not be aggressive, which an ESPN just published a piece about like, hey, the numbers don't always tell you to go for it. It's just when it comes up, the numbers do because it's a little bit less ambiguous than you think. So it feels like the numbers always tell you to go for it, but they don't. And in situations where the numbers don't tell you to go for it, Dan Campbell also doesn't go for it. And I'm not saying that he has like Nirvana won himself into like the numerical database or whatever, right? I do think that there is an analytical component guiding the Detroit Lions here, but I think that very often he does employ his understanding of how the team is doing, his understanding of matchups, momentum, whatever, into that decision framework. But it's off of a different threshold for when to go for it than other people. And so his like median matches what is analytically a sound median for how often you go for it. And like that's like I think that's the thing is like I think the reason that like people get kind of weirded out about this is because they think that the analytics always say go for it and they don't, is that I don't mind, generally speaking, coaches saying, hey, we didn't go for it here because we didn't think we had the numbers or we didn't think we had the matchup or we didn't feel like the game situation was right for us. If on average you went for it as often as you probably should have, the individual decisions when you decide not to or when you decide to go for it kind of wash out. But coaches have a threshold that is much more conservative. And so they will use game situation and context and weather or whatever to decide not to go for it when the numbers tell you to go for it instead of the other way around and go for it when the numbers tell you not to go for it. Like we almost never hear about that, right? We never hear like, hey,
looking for reasons not to versus looking for reasons to
it's
do
like,
it. Yeah.
Hey,
proactive.
It was snowy and the defensive backs are slipping a lot more than the receivers are, so we decided to go for it even though the numbers told us not to. right? Like, oh, that would be so refreshing. But we never hear about that, right? And so the median is in a weird spot. And Dan Campbell is like perfectly hit where like the average go for it rate should be given the situations he's in.
I do have a Dan Campbell gripe. Going to get to it right now in Party Foul.
It's time to tell you who spilled their proverbial drink on the sofa. Get ready for this week's Party Foul.
We didn't dwell on this last week. I was mind-boggled by the timeout fiasco at the end of the Bucs-Lions game on both sides.
Oh, right.
Campbell,
right. We didn't
Campbell
talk about that.
royally screwing up the clock and the Bucs not taking advantage and Bowles having no answer for it. And I don't believe Campbell was pressed on this. Maybe he was and I missed it, but he again was not pressed on it yesterday, taking an inexplicable timeout. I know yesterday he was not. I watched the post game. And, and again, for those that missed it,
so bad.
3 timeouts in your back pocket.
And you need them.
A minute to
you
go.
Need them all.
You need them to get the ball back. You're not going to get the onside kick. Let's not kid ourselves. That's a possession right there. They call a run play and miss. Okay, so you kind of put your eggs in that basket. That being said, you cannot take that timeout.
No,
you cannot. That's your golden ticket. And they burned it. They could have probably taken 10 additional seconds off the clock, run a play. And
even if it's 15 or 18 seconds, you can't use it. You can't use it.
Cannot.
But saving that 20 seconds is less time than saving the 40 seconds that the
exactly.
It's the only thing that gives you a chance at getting the ball back again. That's it.
Right.
I mean,
like the primary issue is you probably should not have run the ball there. Fine. If you did, you got to run another play. You'd have to have another play already called.
Yeah,
like it should have already been called.
Yep.
All the other players should have known it. Mm-hmm. Here's what you do if you fail on the run play, right? And then you already every player knows both plays going into that sequence, right? And the fact that that was not the situation is actually like bad coaching. And then the inability to call that timeout is poor game management, or the capacity to have to call that timeout is poor game management. Like it was just a mess. Like, and the thing is, like, if you're in a situation where you're in hurry up and you can't spend the time to call a play or whatever, like that's what the practice week is for. You have to have a play in your back pocket for exactly that situation. And it can't be the same every week, but it's got to be something that you drilled in practice. So you have to have a 4th down hurry up play at the goal line. That's it. You have to have one, and everyone has to know it. And your backups have to know it in case somebody's hurt and your 3rd wide receiver is now your 5th wide receiver. Everybody has to know it, and that's a normal part of practice. So the fact that they didn't go to that right away, first of all, like, and there's not much Jared Goff can do if Campbell's calling a timeout, right? But like that's like your players have to be up and ready to go, right? Your players have to be on the ball, ready to execute whatever play that you drilled on like what situation was Thursdays, right? On Thursday. So like that's first of all, but second, you probably shouldn't have called the run play, honestly. But regardless, you call the wrong play, fine. You can't because that timeout is what's allowing you 3 downs when you kick the ball off, right? Like you need all 3 timeouts to prevent those 3 downs from running up the clock. Like that's the thinking. That's all you have. So inexcusable and way more of an issue than the 4th down stuff we just spent all this time on.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's unambiguous to me. So people spend more time on the 4th down because you can argue it.
And Sam, you're saying nobody called him out? Nobody asked him in
crazy.
The post-game presser?
I watched it. I watched it, didn't hear it.
Wow.
I get it. There's a lot to go over.
Greg Olsen
about 20 minutes
too.
Yeah.
Yes. Olsen was great discussing this.
Olsen was great.
I've really appreciated his rhetoric. I mean, even going back to decision-making the previous week, I think he's been great. I'm sad that Brady might usurp him. I would try a 3-man booth, to be honest. But, yeah, any other party fouls
I can't do all the commercials anymore, guys. I don't know. Maybe I sound old. Go ahead, make fun of me. Pre-game, halftime, 2-minute warnings every single time out. I watched as many commercials as I did football yesterday. Somebody added up. I would love to know.
This is not unique to you, Luke. A bunch of people were tweeting about the heavy commercial density.
Okay, thank you.
Particularly in championship weekend.
Oh, well, the second half of Chiefs-Ravens, where it went punt, 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 and most of them were 3-and-outs, at least half, it was unbearable, dude. I don't know if I just got to start DVRing it, let it get 30, 45 minutes ahead, and then I can catch you up like live fourth quarter-ish. But
then you can't participate on Twitter.
I know,
right.
I know.
Speaking of Twitter, if you tweeted something insane about Jameson Williams in the first or second quarter of that game, you need to repent. That was a completely insane response to Jameson Williams' monthly play. Like, come on, man. We got a 70-yard game. That would have been the fourth best game of Jordan Addison's season. The fourth best game of Jordan. That is what that game would have been. I am so sick and tired of hearing about it. He's not that good, y'all. He's wide receiver 4 on that team.
It's unfair of you to compare, what was it, the 12th overall pick to the
23rd. That's true. Yeah. And of course, Jameson Williams
honestly,
also had
Addison wasn't even the best rookie receiver this year. He was maybe 3rd or 4th best. I can't believe
I'm counting rushing yards in that, which also advantages Jameson Williams. I'm being very charitable to Jameson Williams here. But people going so insane. It's like my timeline just flooded when he scored that touchdown with people that it feels like are willing Jameson Williams to be good so that they can pay out their cynicism from trading down in 2022. So they can be like, I was right. I was right about the Vikings. They are stupid and they'll never win a Super Bowl. It is going to snow tomorrow.
If you wanted to be miserable about the way the Vikings have drafted, it was already there on championship weekend with Kyle Hamilton. You already had the ammunition you needed, right?
Oh, they went there too.
I know,
but man,
why don't you just focus on that?
Y'all know who you are? Repent. Party foul.
Just focus on the Kyle Hamilton thing and don't spend time on the Jameson Williams thing. It just makes you look stupider. Honestly, this guy's not good yet.
Jameson Williams is not a good receiver yet, and we'll see. It's only what.
Also Christian Watson, right? Like,
and
the Packers' best receivers are like a 5th-round pick and a 7th-round pick right now.
Yeah, Watson might be wide
4th
receiver
and 2nd
now.
are not killing it.
Yeah.
What's the guy who tweeted?
Watson makes a play.
Christian Watson has a better upside than Justin Jefferson. That was a tweet this offseason. Are we going to get that on Jameson Williams too?
Oh, that's a Bucco tweet. Those aren't real. You don't got to worry about that.
It's a nice, insane homer take, but at least you know that's what you're getting. Like, there's no.
I don't have any.
We're not trying to hide that.
I think we covered all of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've got a really good nerdy stat of the day on Patrick Mahomes after this on the Minnesota Football Party, which is brought to you today by Jase Medical. We come to watch sports talk podcasts to escape the realities of life, but we got to be serious on occasion. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin. It's a tough flu season right now. That's real stuff. And it's a helpless feeling when you don't have the care that you need. There might be supply chain issues, pharmacies unable to fulfill your prescription. You might have kids that are sick. They can't get the care they need. Well, the Jase Case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses like UTIs or respiratory infections, plenty more. That's stuff that could pop up at any time for any of us. Visit jasemedical.com. Get your Jase Case complete. You're meeting with a physician. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician. Your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. And we're going to take some cost off of that as well. If you go to jasemedical.com, use our offer code Locked On, one word, Locked On, to get $20 off your order. It's never been more important to be prepared than today with the Jase Case. And we end the show with the fan favorite segment.
Analytics fans rejoice.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
It's time to get educated.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now.
With the nerdy stat of the day.
Do we get any feedback that actually suggests that this is a fan favorite segment?
Focus
I'll never
group
look at
every week.
this show. You can say whatever you want about me in there. I won't see it.
We can parlay this into some Chiefs-Ravens talk. I thought it was the less compelling of the two games, but not totally uncompelling either. But it was the 17th game in the playoffs in Patrick Mahomes' career. Convenient number, because now we get to look at his first full season of playoff stats, and the numbers are as mind-blowing as you would expect. Against the best opponents in the toughest environments, weather environments, crowd environments. Patrick Mahomes, 17 playoff games, 4,803 yards, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 4 Super Bowl appearances.
I did not prepare a nerdy stat, but I did become familiar with the contours of that particular statistic. So in lieu of providing my own, I will add on to yours, which is that Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, who have all been injured or have missed time for whatever reason over the past 6 years, have played more football than any other football player has over the past 6 years as a result of all of these postseason appearances, which doesn't include the bye weeks that they got from being the top seed, right? But they've played an extra season of football as a product of their incredible success. Their 14-3 season, by the way, would have made them the number 1 seed in both conferences, and also, I believe, is better than any of their records. They did not have a 15-win season, right? So I believe their postseason record is their best regular season record as well.
That's crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, both those are insane.
Be your best when your best is required.
So because the Ravens were just so dominant all year, Lamar Jackson never attempted a pass while trailing by 8 or more points all season.
Ooh, that's
until
good.
the second half.
You see that Ben Solak tweeted out? The last snap that Lamar Jackson took with a 10-point deficit was in December of like 2021 or something.
Yeah, props to Solak digging that up. Unbelievable. So it's week 21 of the season, 19 games they've played, 2 byes in there. Probably could have used some more reps in those obvious passing situations yesterday. He just looked really out of sync, man. He was not only never really comfortable or found any rhythm in the pocket, but it just felt like he was constantly on every single drop back, trying to get it all back in one play, like just looking for the home run ball or the splash play instead of just taking what the defense gives you and trying to keep the chain movement. Like, you're down 10, man. It's going to take a couple drives here. It just really felt like you were watching a quarterback just pressing so hard.
I felt it was both Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken who were screwing that up, because they were dialing up a lot of really aggressive plays when that wasn't really necessary, at least at that point in the game. Like, I appreciate when you're backed up when you're on your own 1 yard line, throwing a deep ball. That I love that. I love the boxy. Doing it like 3 times in a row, like, get a first down, man. Relax.
Yeah, right. Pump the brakes, dude. Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. I think Spags versus Monken, the way Spags outcoached him was the big storyline in that one. I mean, they go into half, 100%. The league leaders in rushing yards, and they had 3 running back rushes at halftime? Like, that's just inexcusable, man. I think they ended with 81 rush yards, and Lamar, I didn't look it up, but Lamar had at least 40 of those. I'd have to go check.
54, I think.
54 of the 81, man? The league leaders in rushing yards?
As somebody who took an alternate spread on Gus Edwards rushing yards, right? And the alternate spread was the lower alternate spread, by the way.
Oh,
I am deeply familiar with how rarely Todd Monken called for a run, which is insane. That is what your team is, right? Not often that I'm going to be on here and say run the ball, but the Ravens should run the ball. They are a run the ball.
That's what they do. That's their identity
against the number 2 pass defense.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You got a lot of Beckham out here trying to come on, man.
You got Nelson Aguilar and Bateman out here trying to
I love Rashad Bateman, but you cannot be like, I would prefer that Rashad Bateman catch the ball versus Gus Edwards running the ball. Come on, man.
Yeah. A lot of these times in these types of games when both teams are just that good, comes down to coaching a lot of times. Spags, I think, flat out just, out coach.
Yeah, and no one's going to hire him to be a head coach because he's won 6 games out of 50 as a head coach. Perfect.
Fraud. I am really stretching what can count as a stat.
Perfect.
But I was curious last night, so I looked this up. There's been 22 seasons since division realignment, which means there have been 88 division winners.
Oh, you tweeted this out already.
Wait a second.
How many of them?
8 division winners times 22.
Or in the NFC. In the NFC.
Okay, got it.
Because this breaks in the AFC because of Tom Brady. So in the NFC, unless you have Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, like specifically, how many in the NFC, if you had to guess, if you haven't seen the tweet before,
I have not.
Oh,
I have not.
We're not repeat division winners. We're different division winners from the year before.
Okay, out of 88.
Of 88,
Out of give me a ballpark.
I would guess slightly more than half. No, slightly less than half. So I'll go with 41. I'll go with 41.
Sam?
I would say 68.
Oh, wow.
We're not.
Holy crap, Sam.
We're
See,
not.
it's 67, right?
64.
64.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job,
Wow.
Well
Wow.
done. Yeah, 64. We're different from the year
I
before.
blame the NFC East and the NFC South for this. They never have repeats.
That's half the conference.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty
and?
Yeah. And it is the NFC North is not as consistent. Like there's a couple of times where you get the Aaron Rodgers thing, but like the Vikings kind of broke that streak like a lot.
Yeah, they did.
Mhm.
They did actually a pretty good job of
And
winning
then
every
there were a
spot.
couple of Bears years. Like it's really, really hard to do the division thing. If you do this for the AFC, there are 41 unique division winners, which is very funny that like a full quarter of the division winners is just like, oops, Tom Brady broke it.
Oops, all Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's pretty much was the AFC. And then the AFC East has been won 3 times in a row now by the Bills. So
Perfect. Yeah.
We
AFC
went into
East, got it.
championship weekend with a betting round robin contest with the outcome on the line. Arif Hassan had a 2-0 record with a chance to be tied and beaten via tiebreaker if he lost. Well, Arif
I
goes
fumbled
0
at
for
the goal
3.
line here. Goodness.
He Zay
yeah,
Flowers
real bad
it.
timeout.
Extended. Yeah.
He extended
Yeah.
the ball. He goes 0 for 3. He had a $100 lead, and he lost his full 100, which he was required to bet. So all Luke Inman needed to do was to get one correct bet, and he did that with a 7-point teaser. Chiefs and Lions bet the underdogs, cashed it, and Luke Inman via tiebreaker wins our postseason round robin. Congratulations.
Thank
Gotta
you
take
so
care of
much.
the ball.
Thank
That's
you so
on
much.
me.
Gotta-
Gotta
yep.
execute.
Yeah. What was your 150 rushing yards for any player? Did
Any
that come
player
close?
in any of the games.
Because that was 4-1. I mean, that
yeah.
was juicy odds.
Yeah. Well, if the Lions just kept running Jameson Williams, I would have hit it.
Right. That was your shot right there. That was your chance.
They didn't use their best weapon.
Yeah, what's going on?
I mean, really, you think McCaffrey would be the guy on paper, right, to go chalk? But
Yeah,
you're
I
right,
thought
not the
it
case.
was going to appear in the I figured between the Ravens, Lions, and 49ers, there's a pretty good shot at one of them hitting over 100. And once one of them hits over 100, 150 is kind of like in the cards. But really, I was banking on a Brandon Ayuk minus 110 touchdown.
Yeah.
I was not thinking about the fact that I only needed to win one bet, right? And so I would have put $50 into like a minus 200 somewhere, which is our limit.
Right.
And so I should have just done that. But I was really banking on Brandon Ayuk scoring. And off of the Kindle Vildor face mask bounce, he was down at like the 1 or the 2, so he almost scored there. And then they threw the ball to him on the very next play, and he dropped it.
Oh.
So everyone's upset about these Josh Reynolds drops. I don't care about that. Brandon Ayuk, hold on to the ball, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, going in,
Come on.
I
All
mean,
because you have one spectacular catch literally 20 seconds prior doesn't mean I'm giving you any credit for that, because you know who else doesn't get credit? Me. And that's who matters.
yeah, right. Tight leash on Ayuk. Yeah, going in, I assumed
Venmo
you would hit
requested
one of those
for $5.
bets. I mean, the Lamar Ayuk anytime touchdown, but
Yeah.
I'll be open to suggestions if you guys see any good prop bets or anything. Leading up to Super Bowl, we got a couple
Oh,
weeks.
don't
here,
listen to me.
but,
I suck apparently.
Yeah, we give Inman a little free dough to make a bet on his own, and as a group too, we have a history
Yes,
of
we do.
doing first touchdown score in this game, and we've come
True.
tantalizingly close. I particularly remember when the 49ers and Chiefs played the last time. We had it on Kyle Juszczyk, who scored 2 touchdowns in the game, just not the first touchdown.
Oh man.
We could do Kyle Juszczyk again.
Agonizing. I think we should go back to that well.
Mhm.
We've got 2 weeks to talk that over. hash it out on the Minnesota Football Party on Thursday. We'll get back into our Vikings QB targets and free agency targets, but a good talk today about Championship Sunday. For the Lukes, for Arif Hassan, thank you to the everydayers for watching. Tomorrow, it's the Ron Johnson Show here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Please subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And hear us on Locked On Vikings.